Hey, are you stuck in your collecting journey? Do you need new ideas, new advice, new wonderful analogies about where you could go next? This episode is for you. Kristian, Ellie, we got some heat, we got some advice.
True.
Pretty little thing living like you count, cause mama, I'm sure hard to hell and now, yes around.
You know what? It's only a matter of time in a watch collecting journey when you reach a point where you get stuck, or you realize you're in a comfort zone, or you realize that this step that you thought would be the end is just a beginning. I'm with two people that are very qualified to talk with me on this subject. Eleanor and Kristian.
Andrew?
Yes.
How are we feeling about this subject? It's going to be a big one.
Well, we're going to jump into a rabbit hole, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before we do,
Yeah, huh?
let's have a look what's on the wrist, because this is a
Lord.
watch podcast. Ellie, you start.
I have stolen from your collection the Disco Volante Fräulein Mary with
It's
this
looking right at home.
So good.
green dial. And I must say that in the watch collecting journey, Fräulein Mary has been one hell of a step, because now I kind of want to buy every single watch that comes out of his new releases.
Yeah, you've got a thing.
I love the new one with the black dial and Beckett cut lab-grown diamonds, and I just like the guy.
Yeah,
which
right,
does
Andrea.
help
Yeah.
also, and we'll get into this in the collecting journey, is
Yeah.
also when you meet some people, you kind of like, dude, I want to wear your watch because he's just a cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Kristian, what are you wearing and where's that in your journey? Because I feel like that's almost like the last
This
stop.
is the last step on my ladder. I'm sorry. I'm leaving the show. This is it. I'm done. I'm 55. I realized this.
I'm out.
This is the one I bring to my coffin. Kids, don't burn me, okay? If you do,
Check his wrist first.
yeah, check my wrist first, all right? Don't worry about the bezazzled things. No, I think that the little figure Sport Auto titanium 41.5 millimeters with a killer movement. I mean, this is so pleasant to wear that I feel like I'm not even wearing a watch. Then I look at down my wrist and go like, dude, it's the end of this traveling.
Is it lasting, that feeling, that new watch hit
I have never honeymooned a watch this long.
this hard?
Ever.
I thought you were going to say this hard.
No, for this long. I'm still hard. I'm still hard thinking about the many moons we're going to honey.
And there we go.
Okay, I
Sorry.
asked for it. I got it.
Yes, you did.
I have a little. Because I'm hosting, I'm just cheating. I do have two. I have this Cartier tank, which actually comes into the story because it's late in my watch collecting journey, and it was a step that I took, and then immediately went, "Oh God, no! It's wrong. I've gone to the wrong place."
Mm.
And then I came back around to it, and then I mooned some honey. I honeyed some moon. But that's not what I'm wearing here. I just wanted to wear something different for this show and to have something different on wrist. This is the Bel Canto by Christopher Ward, the classic, which has this gear shade dial. This is my favorite variation. It's a bit of a green over tan British vibe. What is it, like a Jaguar? What's the Jaguar with the bench seats? Is
That
it
gear
X?
shiz, interesting.
Wow.
It's
Yeah. That.
on that angle,
Holy
on my
moly.
angle,
I'm getting
it's
full blue from here. It's like azure.
Yeah.
But is that because of the sapphire crystal or?
I think it's because,
It's
gear
because
shade
the
has
gear
different
shade has like the,
paint
yeah.
on different sides.
Yeah.
That's
I
really
think it's like
tricky.
the
I'm going to try
faceting
and
of a
give it to the
gemstone.
people. I'm going to try and find the blue for the people, but I can't find it.
Yeah,
You
you
just
have it.
sexed
Oh,
up
there it
this
is.
watch.
There, I
Yeah.
I saw
It's
a
like a
little bit.
chameleon.
That's really interesting. It is
Yeah.
like a chameleon's scale.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So this doesn't come into the collecting journey story at all, really. However, I do feel that the Bel Canto will be a gateway watch to complications, because this is a chiming mechanism. This is a sonore piece.
Uh-huh.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
we had the longest amount of pre-talk ever before
Yes.
an episode just now.
We
Mine
did.
is
Very true.
stood right there, and we sat like Ellie and I were lounging on the couch.
Uh-huh.
You had your shoes off and feet up on the couch. We're just chilling, trying to find, because we had show notes for this, but we really had an idea about what the show would be, which was called From a Submariner to a Tank, which was the male version, and then From a Tank to a Panerai, which is the female version, of how to actually mature into an interesting watch collector from someone that perhaps starts at that first most obvious point, which is, I want to get a good watch. I want to get a Rolex. I want to get a tank, which I think is a really fair male-female starting point. but then how do you grow from that into something that resembles, I suppose, like, to some extent, the people at the table? Like, we have interesting collections, but that's an unfair advantage that we have.
And that's why I came into place telling you that I started the other way around.
Yes.
Because you said, how do you grow from Submariner to a tank to a Panerai? In my collecting journey, I started with a Panerai, grew to a tank, and still don't own a Submariner.
Yes, you're always a contrarian. Ellie, if there's anything I've learned from this series, it's that no matter what I say, it will somehow be diametrically the opposite.
Maybe I was the wrong guest for this third,
You, my dear, are
story.
the perfect guest. Let's give the viewers what they came
Did you do your
here for.
homework?
This is the brief. We are talking about, I suppose, our own collecting journeys, and then we're going to ask you and talk to you about yours. Are you stuck somewhere? Maybe through this storytelling we can help.
It's also the $1 million question where, again, we're part of the industry, so our mind goes there, and we see a lot of watches. But for you, looking at us, you're like, yeah, these dudes, they're nice, but 1, I don't have that kind of money. 2, I don't have the application
That
they
kind
can
of
get.
access.
3, I don't have the access. 4, I don't have the knowledge. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the genuine question is, what does collecting mean? And can I be called a collector if I only have watches that are worth less than 500 pounds, francs, euros? Is it like, if I don't own any of the big brands, I'm still in the collector circle? Like, all these questions, and I think we're here today to kind of reassure and put the baseline of what the collecting and collector's journey actually is.
And let's put a fine point on that now.
Yeah.
It isn't about money, access, profile, privilege. This is you could be collecting Casio, you could be collecting vintage Orient, you could be collecting anything. We get stuck in our ways. We look for a way to continue to grow because we are humans. We like we are creatures of habit. No matter where we end up, we can find ourselves after a year or two going, I feel like this is getting a little bit stale. And this is where I suppose we want to bring to you the ways that we shook it up, the ways that this watch happened for me is a good example. The ways that why don't you just bless the world with this amazing drug analogy? The drug analogy that you just gave us.
One, because I think what's interesting in his drug analogy, but I'm not going to steal the thunder, but
steal his drugs.
I think on this collecting journey, and yours is a great one, which doesn't appeal to me because I don't see myself in it. But I think in the pre-discussion we had, it's just where you place yourself. Should I grow from a round case to I'm going to let you do your drag analogy, then I'll get into mine, and then we'll let him talk. And then we'll ask you guys, which way do you relate the most? Because I think that's what's interesting too.
Well, this analogy, I have to admit, is inspired by a conversation with an auctioneer that I had some years ago. I'm not going to mention his name is Aura Bax because there's nothing on there. But I think Aurel has a great way of explaining everything. Horology.
In 3 languages.
Why, and leaning over, can I have another offer? 10 million for the Paul Newman. Aurel has this love for storytelling. I think that's very important in the world of auctioning, I think. It's not the matter of the final amount that it hammers, but it's the importance of the timepiece or the car, whatever you're selling, stamps. And we had this conversation. I think we were enjoying a really, really rich glass of red wine in Copenhagen some years ago. And he said, well, Kristian, actually collecting watches is like, entering the world of drugs. Your first cigarette, that's a date just, right? Well, start fiddling a little bit about the hashies. Oh, that's probably you steal Daytona, right? Oh, fuck, you go a little cocaine. All right, let's have a Patek Philippe Nautilus, right? So you have these drugs that goes on, and you just go crazy on some asset, and you go like the Richard Mille. And then all of a sudden, when you go to that last step of the ladder, and you're probably my age, and you go like, I can't do these drugs no more. I have to go clean. I have to go vegan. I have to stop, dating young chicks with fake tits. I need to be myself. And then you go back to the 6263 Daytona
And we're
with a
cancelled again.
great
How
provenance.
many times we've been
And
cancelled?
I mean, probably it was more fun when he told me, and he didn't tell it to me like that at all. He was way more professional. He was way more oral backs with his knowledge. Dude is cooler than ice cream. But I really like that anecdote because collecting watches is as addictive as dogs are. Not that I've done many, but I'm addicted.
Which one have you done? Let's get into this. I'm interested.
I tried hashish, I guess. As a Dane, as a semi-Viking, I like, if I need to be intoxicated, I would do alcohol. So I feel like I like to be in control of myself and my body. No, but there's something about it because collecting watches is addictive. And I think once you start with your starter watch, and that would be anything, maybe you're into that G-Shock, and you just go like, wow, glows in the dark. You look under your duvet and go like, wow. And you realize, oh, I just made another $300. I'm going to get another one. And once you have your third watch, no matter the brand, no matter the value, you're beyond that first cigarette. And now you have a collection of watches. And now you're addicted to collecting watches. Those are your very first steps onto that horrible and very often very expensive trip up the tall ladder.
Mm-hmm. This ladder is
end of my
I'll
shit
take
coming out of my mouth.
I'll take over with the ladder because the ladder is something that's, I feel, it stretches. You get your hands on those first rungs, and you're like, okay, this is good. I'm climbing. This feels good. I'm getting, oh, look, I'm a little bit higher. I'm looking down on people who have Casios because I've got a G-Shock that glows in the dark. Look at you poor people down there with your Casios. I'm up here with my G-Shock, and you can start climbing. I totally fell into this trap, thinking that with each rung that I acquired, from a Rolex to a AP to a Patek to a Vacheron, that there was somehow going to be more pleasure, more enjoyment, more sense of satisfaction. Absolutely not true. And
more money.
And more money. But the commensurate enjoyment of each rung did not increase the same amount. You just didn't get the same sense. And I feel that if you're a certain type, and we've talked about personality type before, if you are sort of a high achiever, someone that wants to continue to feel upward mobility, you want to feel that you're getting better, you're going further, you're going faster. Collecting can be it's a little bit of how do I say this? It's not necessarily a linear progression for happiness and satisfaction. And this is where I think you might fall into the trap of thinking the next best watch will be the next one that's higher priced and more prestigious. And that's partly, I won't conclude my story now because it's your turn to tell where you're at and your journey, but I definitely fall into that cliche of somebody that started at a low level and then just wanted to prove to myself and potentially to others and wanted to, it's almost like the colors of stars when you're in primary school. There were the bronze ones, the silver ones, the gold ones, and then the teacher would draw a little, if you did really well. I had that same sense of, I want to keep rewarding myself with a different color of star. And that was how my journey. Levels.
Because what's interesting, when I listen to the two of you, you're talking about the ladder, so you're thinking you're coming lower, then you go up. That's what collecting is about. So in my mind, it's really funny because I don't see this at all. Because for me, the collecting journey is what about you started your collecting journey like young, and at some point you made a lot of money, so you climbed that ladder actually faster, which means that by the age of 30, you got there, and so now you have to, you've reached the highest point, so you have to go all the way down, get sober, and do it again, but differently. This is way too complicated. For me, the whole collecting thing is more like, I see it like this, like a journey, where it's not like climbing a ladder. It's more like a box with empty holes, like, oh, this one I don't have. Oh, this one I like. Oh, I don't have this color. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, that's an interesting collection. It's going to be eclectic. But again, that's my perception of collecting, because some days I can like this. Some days I have this money. Some days I actually don't, but I collect this. And then, I stumble upon that. It's like, I still have this one. And it's like this game, like a kid where at the end of the day, you need to get all your stars, but not necessarily in the right order.
Yeah.
So which is why, like, if you give me a ladder, I would probably break every single limbs of my body because I would fall, go back up. I wouldn't be able to climb. I would be too clumsy for that.
It's great.
That's how I imagine it. But you guys are just like, but I guess it's men versus women also.
A little bit.
Because you guys are very methodical. I made that much money. I'm
an
that
intern.
watch.
I get
do this.
to here,
I climb there, and then again the image of the ladder.
Yeah.
This is giving me anxiety.
But
literally.
you know what? I feel like you almost need to go through that process to then begin, because that was a few years ago now. We're talking 3, 4, even 5 years ago. Did I realize that this ladder was fruitless? This was not leading to happiness, and it wasn't leading to anything that I would consider to be self-expression. And this is, I think, the longer you are in watches, the more you realize that you need to, or there's a point where you start to see your take and your identity start to emerge. And that's why I think the first good bit of advice is, instead of just considering, and again, there's nothing wrong necessarily with progressing from a good watch to a great watch to a grail watch, which is something we've talked about before.
We covered that, yeah.
There's a lot of joy in holding a hand-finished Geneva seal watch, if that's your jam, if you want something from the Canton of Geneva. But there is a beauty in a high-end watch. There is something truly remarkable in a world of planned obsolescence, in a world of devices. This watch that's made for generations, that is beautifully hand finished, is something of great value. But I do think that there's, when you've reached that and go, okay, well, where do I go now? That's actually when you begin to say, what do I really like across the spectrum? And this is where I think the first bit of advice is, if you feel like you don't really need to go and try lots of watches on, because you see your next step as clearly, I'm at an Oris, so the next is an Omega, and then beyond that is here and here, then that's fine. You can continue down that path, and that will be satisfying as you acquire each level. But I'm at the point where, having got to that point, I then realized that this does come back to my privilege, though, is that by trying everything on, I really had some interesting itches to scratch, such as this tank. I realized that even though this wasn't necessarily in my ladder matrix, I saw so many, there was so much about the tank that fascinated me in terms of its history and elegance, its history. Everything about Cartier is sort of this version of, to me, it is that Cartier world is so desirable that I went back down a few rungs and acquired that. And I feel that but that can only happen when you're trying a lot of watches on. And,
it's interesting that you say you're going back down. It's just the evolution of who you are at this point, of how you've been sensitized to this, or how you've had this in your hands. Maybe if you had that in your hands a couple of years before, you would have liked it, but you probably didn't have, or maybe you were not ready for that.
I did, but I didn't see, I think I was quite hell-bent on, because again, you see the Kristians of this world, and Kristian and I meet at SIHH, and he's got a Zeitwerk, and he's got, vintage Rolex, and you just, as a younger person, wanting to, I think, and maybe it is partly being in the industry, I don't know, but maybe you can relate. You tell me you're collecting as well. When you go to a get-together, a red bar, or a meetup, and there's people with these super aspirational watches, like, I just wanted to be you. I wanted to get to where you were at, and I wanted to get there step by step. I didn't want to just jump there. I didn't want to somehow get a jetpack and skip 5 rungs. I wanted to work my way up to that. But again, I was definitely missing things along the way, and I was really probably quite tunnel vision about.
So you wanted to tick the boxes instead of coming out with something completely different, like a ballers. Like, you come into the room, it's like, that's a bold choice.
To be really honest, and again, we've had some really raw moments on the show. I did not have the self-confidence. I didn't have the confidence in my watch choices to stand there with something that was just odd or idiosyncratic. I just wanted to have I wanted the desirable baller watches, and not necessarily baller as in AP Patek and just the obvious ones, but
No, but just
yeah.
ticking boxes.
Well, here's the thing about collecting watches, because it's actually quite a modern trend.
Mm.
And I believe it was actually invented here in London back in the 90s.
Okay.
Because the auction houses, they were selling these Renaissance furniture and these Mona Lisas and the coins and the stamps.
Mm.
But they were missing out on the young bankers, which are plenty here in London. And they knew they would have that crazy Christmas bonus, right? So instead of using it, spending the money on Russian strippers and a new BMW 3 Series, they invited them for after hours information night with champagne and Coke. Not the Coke. And talking about addictive. And the thing is, spend your money wisely. So they would start educating. I believe this was Christie's and Sotheby's.
Mm.
They would start educating these young lions from the bankers' world on Rolexes because they knew that brand. They probably had one already, but they taught them that the 1953 Rolex Submariner, being 37 millimeters and only water resistant to 100 meters, is not the same as the Submariner, modern Submariner you're wearing now. So the bankers, instead of oozing of wealth, would ooze of knowledge. Knowledge, of course, is the true wealth of this world. So when you went playing pool on that strip club, and of course you only went to that strip club because of the chicken, which is really good, you'll be like, oh, that'd be all but flashing that cool Rolex Submariner or two-tone Datejust with a few stones rocked on the dial. And then all of a sudden, that kid over there from UBS, he's wearing a 1957 reference 5508, with an exclamation mark on the 6. And like,
Not smart.
it does look like my watch, but it doesn't look like my watch. All of a sudden, he's the interesting kid in that bank. Because let me tell you a story about this watch. And I think collecting watches is also being able to share your knowledge on specific models. I know we're not going to only talk about Rolex, but Rolex is actually the easy way in to collecting watches because every Rolex mostly are perfect. So when they come with imperfection, with a bit of wabi-sabi, if you like, the imperfect perfection, then it becomes interesting. Of course, high value. We talked about the Patrici. We will talk about, tropical dials that by mistake and humidity and age will go from black to brown.
It's not always true though of Rolex that like imperfections, like spider dials, for example, like they're just fucked up. They're
fucked up. It's because of poor quality.
And they're not
all of a sudden they get a nickname and they become
all they need is a nickname. So often until they get a nickname, they're not as valuable. But then people like Kristian give them a nickname.
No, I'm not into the nicknames, but I do collect and what I collect because of that imperfection. I collect vintage Rolexes with a provenance. Again, the hero product. Again, the National Geographic. Was this watch worn by a guy I was deeply impressed with, a Cuban agent, or was this worn by a submarine captain or something like that? If it comes with a great story, then I buy into a watch that instantly has a provenance and a great story. If I buy a new watch, myself, I have to make this watch interesting. See, most interesting things I do. I like books about war. Now I'm talking about like Dennis Leary. I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
You're I watch some Netflix.
You describe yourself as a boring asshole who doesn't make any provenance. You don't help the provenance of your watches, so you need to buy other people's stories.
Exactly. Sounds a bit fake, doesn't it?
The self-awareness is sexy, though.
Sorry, that was a long rant.
So
on my fifth step on the ladder.
If we just go back to the original topic, which is the collecting journey of you're a watch collector or you're fond of watches, how do you go from there to there? And I've hung out in my dad's store enough to hear a couple of things and pick up what some clients have gone to. And obviously, when you get into my dad's store, all you see, or most of you can see, are strange pieces that you've haven't seen anywhere else. And probably the most common, the most popular today would be the Octofinissimo Bulgari. And I've heard a guy, and he was wearing, like, I can't remember what it was, but it was a pretty big watch. And he's like, I like it, but I'm not there yet. What does it mean? I'm not there yet.
That's when we said this pre-talking, I'm like, this is what show's about.
And the I'm not there yet is okay. Brilliant. Do I have I been wearing only round watches and I'm not ready yet to get into shape watches, cushion, panerai, rectangular, tank, octagonal, Bulgari, tunnel. It could be a Richelieu, it could be FP Journe. All these guys kind of fantasize about the idea, but when they wear it, it's the same analogy as jewelry. I've seen so many of my girlfriends checking out my jewelry, like, yeah, I like it. I don't think I can pull that off.
You know
like,
what?
What do you mean?
I'm starting to think it may not be the shapes that are putting people off. It might be back to my dead boring ladder. I feel that many people are on this ladder because a Royal Oak is an odd-shaped watch, but it's on the ladder. It's definitely
it's the wrong example because Royal Oak 20 years ago. If you listen to my dad, it would be the watch he wouldn't be able to sell. And what everybody would get into his store and ask for a reverso, and if they wanted a discount, my dad was known not to give discount to anyone. So instead of giving a discount, he's like, I'm not going to give you a discount, but instead I'll give you this watch, which was a Drolton Royal Oak that nobody wanted. If I say that out loud today, people are like, are you fucking kidding me? But that is true.
You're talking about a person in the store now.
Yeah, I'm talking about a store now because you're saying, well, a Royal Oak is like a shape watch. Yes, but a Royal Oak has been printed in like God knows how many billions of page covers.
But don't you think there are lots of people who are on this ladder? And when they say I'm not there yet, they're not prepared to look outside of the status symbols and the progression of watches ahead.
That is only if we stay on that ladder, which means your way of thinking, which means I start with a Datejust and then I move on to the Daytona and then maybe I'll get into an AP and from the AP I'll get into the Richelieu. All these watches, and again, I'm just follow my reasoning here, is like the boring way because you're just stating the obvious. Like, I don't know you, but I kind of know what you're going to tell me. The whole collecting journey, and again, we're talking about just a small portion of people who have the money to afford those watches. But all these other people who are watching us and who are interested in watches, they want to learn about Tissot, they want to learn about Longines, they want to learn about all these watches that they can get that are affordable, that are somehow expensive, less expensive, but that are not just for people who know people, who have a location, who have money, and who know about the industry.
I'm just saying that my theory about that person who's like, I'm not there yet, is I think it has a lot to do with this conformity and this aspirational path that stretches out. You had the drug theory of you go from here to here to here, and that was, again, the same kind of watches in a line. I feel that is very pervasive for people, and watches like the Finissimo are definitely to the left or the right of the traditional path. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that necessarily everyone watching the show is going to be like, no, they're not all going to necessarily have the exact same path stepping ahead, but I think many people do perceive watch collecting as a hierarchical thing where you step forward and you step from one to the next. Kristian's analogy, my ladder analogy, they're there for a reason, which is I feel that is a fairly common thing.
Don't get me wrong.
But
I agree.
Finissimo is definitely to the left or the right. To some extent, the tank is to the left or the right because they're not necessarily part of this cliched, very stereotypical, like this, then this, then this.
Okay, let me add something to the discussion. In all the collectors and all the people who came to you for advice or who want to talk about watches, they are the one with the ladder analogy. I get it, 100%. But they are the branded people. I'm a Rolex guy. I'm a Patek guy. I'm an Omega guy. I'm a Cartier guy. I want to step away. My next step is a new brand. And then you'll have the guy, my next step is a new shape. That my next step is a complication. My next step, and there's all those personalities where the collecting journey really depends on who you are, where you're at, and what you want. And again, at this point, for me, there's no ladder, there's no budget. It's just where you're at, what you want, and what you're looking for. And it really is a personal thing. So if we have to give advice today, either we go back to all the personalities and we try to give answers to that, or you guys throw us questions and we'll answer all of them in another episode, which could be another idea. But it's a really hard question with multiple answers, I think.
Well, I think there's been 2 answers so far, and your answer's to come. My answer is to look at outside of the traditional path of hierarchy, such as the tank, and to get as many watches in your hands as possible. Go to retailers, go to secondhand dealers, go to get-togethers, and you'll be surprised at what watches will just fit on your wrist like a puzzle piece. Your advice was to read and get the storytelling, the campfire gene going in your head of, oh my God, this is no longer a status object. This is an incredible story. And this attracts me to this Rolex. It's no longer about being a Rolex. It was worn by a submarine captain.
Exactly.
Fucking cool is that?
Yeah.
So what's your advice?
It's very true. You're making a really good point, which I will make an analogy with jewelry in a sense that you go to places, you try as many watches, that is very true. You take as much information as possible, you get educated, but at some point you need to set yourself a goal, or you just need to force yourself to answer one question. And you define that question. But the jewelry analogy is when I have clients or friends who come to me is like, oh, can you help me make an engagement ring? Sure. What's your budget? I don't have a budget. Yeah, you do. I'm telling you, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Because I can suggest this, or that. So they always tell you I don't have a budget. Yes, they do. Number one thing. What style? I don't know. Like, I want a diamond. I want something classic. Okay, this is classic. Yeah, but no, that's boring. Okay, fine. And then, it's like the... how do you call the
funnel?
It's like a funnel. You have to start then, and then you need to dig in. The same way that when you're looking for the next watch, okay, do you want an independent or you want an institutional? If you're really against independent, then don't go there. If you're kind of like flirting with the idea, go to a retail store, go online, check out what's out there in the independent. And then you're going to see, do you want something expensive, not expensive, and do your own funnel. And I think it's the number one piece of advice we can give is you have no idea, but you do have an idea.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you do have an idea.
You don't have
It's like you don't have a budget, but you do have a budget. No, but it's true.
I like that. That's some wise words from a retailer's daughter. I mean, I like this a lot. You have some insight that I really appreciate. That's really, really cool. I mean, I recall just coming back because I used to love Richard Mille. I mean, I was in love with his tonneau-shaped watches. He was on the cover of one of my books, full chapter on that. And I had a dream about Richard Mille some moons ago. I'm not going to tell it at this table because it's really weird. He went from the tonneau-shaped watch, which I loved, and all of a sudden, he came with the RM16, the ultra-flat rectangular. He came with a circular watch. I'm like, dude, why did you do that? I was so disappointed. Yeah. But Ricardo, he told me, I did this because people thought I could only do the tonneau. So I wanted to prove the world that I'm more than tonneau-shaped watches.
And guess what?
I was not prepared to do anything but tonneau-shaped Richard Milles. That being said, I don't know how big the success the RM16 shape is. But circular Richard Mille is a pretty cool, also flat watch. So again, I understand when they came to your dad's shop and go like, that's a cool watch, but I don't know if I'm there yet. I totally understand that. I respect that. And I still dislike Richard for doing a non-tonneau watch.
But to just keep going with the Bulgari example and the client not knowing if he's there yet. And that's the beauty of retailers in general and the beauty of you going into a store and visiting people, hearing stories and trying out as many pieces as possible. Is that fine? Hand me your wrist. I'm just going to put on your wrist the Octo Finissimo and you're just going to try that feeling, experience this feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't have the numbers and I could call Dad and ask him, but the majority of the client who were not there yet, who were not ready for it, were like, I'm never going to wear anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The revelation.
it's like a revelation, but it could be another. The revelation could be with how to read time en essence. It could be how to discover like an MBNF. It could be like, oh no, I can never pull this off until you do.
Yeah.
But it's just like there's a first time to everything.
I had the revelation. Sorry, I had the revelation when you tried on your Bulgari in an early episode. I knew the existence of this watch. I love what Fabrizio is doing for the brand, but the only Bulgari I own is, the old Scuba chronograph, which is really cool with the rubber strap. It was a bold watch from Bulgari already back then, with a middle case that's not supposed to be. It's like a yellow jacket. It can't fly, but it doesn't know. So the Bulgari Scuba is like that.
Just lost me.
It's constructed as it should not be, but it still works as a diver's watch. So the Octofinissimo, to me, it's almost like a brutalist watch. So I have been wanting to add this to my collection for so many years. But to me, on paper, and seeing it at presentations, I didn't have the chance to try it on my wrist. I'd be like, too flat, too big. And I tried yours on. I was like, wow, it works well. The revelation, I don't care what everybody else said. I just fell in love.
Yeah.
Well, explain love to me. We've been through this so many times now, but when you fall in love,
it's
you are
emotion.
insane.
It goes back to emotion.
Yeah.
There's no intellect on it.
I got a whole other way to look at it. Imagine your wrist, and then imagine Jennifer Lawrence. Don't connect them. Your wrist is like, a puzzle, how there's like a piece left in certain parts. Because I just had this portal open up about why that revelation might have happened today or yesterday. The shape that's missing from the puzzle changes all the time as we change.
It's true.
This comes back to Jennifer Lawrence in a
I was waiting for it.
in a not amazing, but somehow very memorable, and somehow in my mind, I'm like, I actually think this movie, though it wasn't very good, it just stayed with me. Red Sparrow.
Oh, yeah.
She's a spy.
Yeah.
And she says to be the ultimate spy, you have to be able to meet someone in a bar or at a train station and in as short a time as possible, figure out what puzzle piece they are missing in their life and just turn yourself into it. So if you're a powerful man who is sick and tired of bossing everyone around, they want to be, what's the word, Marcus? They want to be dominated. If they're a powerless woman and they have no autonomy in their life and they want to feel powerful. So she adapts to what every person, every target she has is missing, and then becomes that immediately. And this person then just goes, I need you. I need you to complete me. And I feel that somehow every single day almost the exact shape of that puzzle piece that's going to cause a revelation changes. And you have to. So my advice here is that you are changing. What you need next in your collection, that shape.
Technically, you don't need anything.
Well,
but it's the next.
No, you do. You do. But Jennifer Lawrence, the Red Sparrow, the changing puzzle piece on the wrist. I think I'm just getting to the point that we are not static, unchanging things that can achieve things in a linear fashion and end the game and win Minecraft. You get to the end and you've apparently you can finish Minecraft. I didn't know this. My 11-year-old told me this today. But we are always changing. And maybe there just wasn't that square shape recess on your wrist until yesterday or today when it locked in. And so you have to allow for the fact that you are also what you need to complete yourself is changing. Because when watches really feel incredible, they are the perfect shaped piece for.
Just feel they've always been there. They've always been on your wrist. They've always been part of your collection.
Yeah.
Wow, dude, you're on fire today.
No, I just felt. I started feeling the world just.
He's had a revelation.
Yeah, right.
You said revelation, okay, but then I just the Jennifer Lawrence thing. That's what a great watch is. It is that piece that somehow feels like in this second, because tomorrow you're incomplete again. This is what sucks about being human. We're always becoming incomplete. Again, the completeness is like being drunk. For the time you're drunk, it feels everything is good. but there's always the hangover. And there's always waking up tomorrow
That's why
with
I
a
don't
new
drink.
shaped piece on the wrist. Look, I'm sorry if we're confusing you. I'm going to change.
I think this whole
No, you
conversation
think?
is going everywhere.
No, we have
But
had
like
advice.
a collection that can go everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's not odd that we go every path and we go left and fall down the ladder and start again. And maybe the ladder is just flat, so we start crawling. A collection will be like that. You will have a goal and you think, I think this is my end piece.
Yeah, I'll talk to you
This is
tomorrow.
it.
You'll
this
be like,
is
The
it. You know?
collection
I
is
just saw
also like a
something else.
representation of your personality, of who you are.
Uh-huh.
Like if you
And
look
it
at my
changes.
collection, it's
Yeah.
eclectic, it's full of colors, it doesn't make any sense. It's
Uh-huh.
kind of like bold and weird.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's who I am.
So that was philosophical. That was a portal opening up in everybody's minds. You think you know yourself. You look down at your collection and say, hey, I seem to like dive watches. I seem to like 40mm steel dive watches. Get to know yourself again. Is that really the itch that you have to get another one? Open your mind and the rest will follow, which is a really bad pop song, I think, from the 80s.
Well,
Remember,
you do like
open
music,
your
don't you?
mind and the rest
Don't
will
sing.
follow.
Don't.
Anyway,
Don't.
So you have one other complaint with us. Ellie, they were complaining before about you guys are privileged, you guys are rich, you guys are in the industry. The other one might be, Andrew, I don't have any money. How can I advance my collection? I'm stymied, I'm stuck.
Uh-huh.
Guess what? A friend of ours in London has some advice for you, Kristian.
Yeah, well, the brutality of curating your collection is the fun of collecting watches or something like that.
Yeah.
Our good friend of the show, Justin Haas, I've had that, well, privilege to follow that great advice, isn't it? Once I wanted a new piece and I thought, but all my pieces are favorite pieces. I can't even
Possibly
let
killing your
any
babies.
go. This is it. All the baby goats are dead. So I have to take that. Okay, I'm going to chop off your head. I like you. I love you. One last kiss. Off you go because a new one is coming in. And that is the brutality of curating your collection, which Justin Haas mentioned is the fun of collecting.
And because guess what? If you've got a collection, you've also got a pile of cash and the opportunity for a fresh start.
Just like what my dad did years ago.
Yeah, he did.
And I feel like only quoting my dad because my life is not interesting about watches.
It was bound to happen.
Kind of
once or
realized
twice.
that, but he did sell his entire watch collection at auction.
Yeah.
With Philips in order to start over completely. And he's had, and again, all these watches marked a really like vivid, memorable, interesting period of his life.
Uh-huh.
And he said, it's not like I don't like those watches. I'm just never going to wear them again.
It was done.
And he just sold everything to buy a lot of new stuff. And again, a very eclectic thing. He bought Undans, MB&F.
Yeah.
Like he bought like so many different things.
But that's
Always-
the drug addict
always
going
on
back to being
independence,
clean.
obviously.
Exactly.
Right?
Well,
just-
he's probably the biggest like extremist collector of everything and anything.
Well, it's like Pharrell Williams, who sold a lot of his stuff recently. He said, I came in naked, I can leave naked. So we sold out most of his, it's a very, what is the word? Ascetic? You just clean everything. I don't need any furniture. I don't need anything.
Minimalist.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Ascetic.
Ascetic.
Aesthetic. Yeah.
And when I read that with Pharrell Williams, he's super wealthy. He can do whatever he wants to. But then too much becomes too much.
Yeah.
So I love what your dad
Less is
did.
more.
No, but the first thing I think that most people's like, wow, is his business bad? Why does he need to sell this? Because he didn't get the craziest auction prices off the collection. But I think to him, I had the same feeling when I go to the garbage place every Sunday to get the trash out of my home. I feel clean. I feel rejuvenated.
You feel lightened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't need that trash. I mean, Lisbeth and I, we just emptied half our shelves of books, and we have a lot of books. And it was just like, wow, what a relief. Our house do look a little empty now, but I like the emptiness because
You'll fill
I'm
it up
probably
in a
going to
half
start
second.
over
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
right?
And actually, so the brutal curation of your collection may give you chills and shudders and horrors.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, is there any better feeling? There's only one better feeling than buying a watch you've wanted for a really long time. And that is when you start to get on a roll of selling stuff. You know, when you sell one and the money comes in, you're like, ooh. I mean, you don't know this because you've never sold a watch. But then you get a bit of a roll on and you're like, well, that was easy. I don't feel fundamentally bereft.
Didn't hurt. It didn't hurt much.
So I'll sell another one. I've done that several times. Once I start selling, I get addicted to selling. Sometimes I feel like it's worse than buying. So, hey, you don't have any money. Yes, you do. If you have 1, 2, 3 watches in your collection, you have the opportunity for a clean start. I think that's a good place to finish.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think this guy belongs to Baller Busters now. It's
yeah, exactly. I've got it. Hey, you want to come and bid on my garage full of stuff? It's a blind bid. You can't get to look what's in there. Pawn store truckers, whatever they're called. I don't know. There's some great shows like that.
And
Let's
here's the game.
It's time for a little lightness. After
yes.
That was like
Play the cards,
was like the
man.
White Album by the Beatles. You know, it was just really trippy there.
Oh, this is great.
Okay. What do you got?
Oh, this is perfect for this episode, man.
What do you got?
Oh,
Lay it out.
perfect for this episode. The biggest loss I've ever made on a watch is...
Oh, dang.
This hurts. So, anyway, I had a Lange Zeitwerk, a great watch, which I banged into a lot of stuff because it was a tall watch. So, I didn't wear it that much. And then the Swedish collector goes like, hey, I want it. Would you like a 5711 Nautilus? I'm like, that douchebag watch? Sure, why not? I didn't want to wear it because I already had the original, the OG Nautilus. So I never wore that 5711. I never even had it on my wrist. So a good friend of mine, an Italian collector, goes like, Kristian, you want to sell your 5711? Yeah, of course I do. But hang on. Can I trade it into a Vacheron Constantin Historique American 1921? A watch I have wanted ever since the launch in 2009. Because like, yeah, sure, I'm going to put a little money on top. I'm like, that's fine. Okay, let's do that. 2 weeks later, the 5711 is discontinued by Patek Philippe. So that, ladies and gentlemen, and your little dogs and infants, whoever is listening in on the show, is the most expensive Vacheron Constantin Historique American 1921. End of story. What a loss.
Excellent. That's a great one. I can't really follow that. I'm going to try, though. I'll never forget the day I picked up a Rolex GMT Master 2 Batman. Ooh. Now, I did not have much time on my hands. I'd already been through the rigmarole of picking a Rolex up before, so I knew that it was going to be a bit of a process, but I didn't want the process. They didn't let me not have the process. There had to be like little things of nuts. There had to be like champagne, and I really was just like, I've got to go. I'm moving on. It was this torturous, luxurious experience that I didn't want. And it was sort of like, I don't know, someone had paid for a great strip show for me on my bucks, and I was nervous about even going through it. I had that same energy of like, I don't want this. I don't want this. Just stop this. Stop. No, don't open champagne. Pop. Oh my God, it's open the champagne. I can't.
I love it.
So they did this whole thing to me, and it was being subjected to a luxurious experience I didn't want. One of the most awkward and regrettable experiences of my life. That is a very first world comment. But I'll never forget the day I picked this watch up because I just wanted to walk in. At this point, I'd figured out that Rolex, despite all its desirability, it is a commodity. It's a thing you just pick up.
Yeah.
I didn't want, it isn't buying a fucking handmade Grobel Forsey where you're going to sit down with Stephen and tell me as you hand polish that bevel, tell me what was going through you. There's none of that shit. It's a beautiful commodity. Yeah. I just wanted to pick it up. They wouldn't let me. I'll never forget that day.
You were out flipping that watch. You didn't have time to own it.
I wore it a lot. That was the watch I've worn the most. As it happened, I wore it the most. But I sold it because the hype around it, I was not impervious to the dastardly looks I'd get wearing it. Oh, Andrew, of course you've got a Batman because you're in the industry and you had all the favors in this. So I just wanted it out of my life. I hated that.
Yeah.
But that is the watch I regret selling the most because it was just dumb of me to react to people's reaction. Don't react to people's reaction to your watch. Decide if you really feel that it's time to let it go.
I want to ask you if you were sick seeing you wear a Batman.
Really?
I can't see that watch in you.
Yeah, it was a different time. It was a different time, but I just regret it because you made me feel bad about the fact that I wore it for my second child's birth and no longer have it. And in the last few months since we started this show, it has actually it did occur to me, God, why didn't I do what you did and just keep it and engrave it? But I had to get to the next rung on the ladder.
Eleanor,
That
your
ladder.
card.
That
I
bloody
think that
ladder.
card is pretty appropriate. If you catch me in a retailer or boutique, I'm obviously probably at Chrono Passion or the MBNF lab in Paris.
Well, that's not the worst places to be in the world.
It isn't.
So you know what's funny about that closing point is you talk about how stories make a difference.
Yeah.
How much do I just want to go and hang out at Chrono Passion now after hearing more about the crazy
I hope you do have time.
madman behind it and like how his proclivities and how his likes and dislikes have just shaped the brand mix. I like this brand now. Fuck everything else.
And you don't need to come prepared because if you go down to his cave, because that really is what his office is, you just sit down and you can get motion sick if you see everything that's on the wall and everywhere. And you just pinpoint, what's the story here? What's the story there?
What's with
Like,
the guitar?
the guitar, the pedal, the stamp. Why do you have a stamp like glued to the wall? Oh, because that stamp was on the envelope that Jean-Claude Biver sent me the day he offered to open the first Hublot boutique in the world back in 2007. And I'm like, okay, and what's that? And you've got like this, a gazillion stories.
I have to go to that man
We should do an
cave.
episode.
If you've never been
Okay.
to that store,
Yeah.
you should.
Now you got a reason. So look, it does come back to you. Tell us about your collecting journey. Is it a ladder? Is it a drug addiction? Is it a budget issue? Is it a puzzle piece? Is it Jennifer Lawrence? Is it? Oh my God!
What is it?
Just tell us. For the love of God, tell us. See you on the next episode.
Bye.
Au revoir.
Pretty little thing living like to count, cause mama, I'm sure hard to hell and I yes around.